Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Minecraft and the strange and wild world of plugins and mods and mod packs and all those sorts of things. Having come very late to Minecraft, I started out with a friend of mine on a mod pack out there in the world called TEKKIT, and recently moved over to Tekkit, and even more recently than that started to explore Feed the Beast. And as we started to spin up a server for more and more of our friends to play, we ran into a lot of challenges trying to provide a more interesting and rich experience in the server environment rather than the single-player survival mode. And I found that one of the biggest challenges that we experienced as relative novices to the Minecraft server world was understanding some of the different terms and how all the different pieces work together. And once you get that, there's a treasure trove of resources out there. So I wanted to kind of just talk through some of the basics and see if that helps some folks. So let's talk about what the expansions are. First of all, there's different APIs out there that modify Minecraft to expand the functionality of the game. For example, one of the ones that's out there very popular is the Bukkit world. From my understanding, it allows plugins to modify the way Minecraft works, and a lot of the plugins that are out there really are server focused. They change the mechanics of how the server is going to respond to the player, whether that be through environment interaction or command lines, things of that nature. But typically they don't require anything for the player to install. Now, Forge is another API out there that allows you to do different modifications to the game, particularly around the area of adding new blocks, new block mechanics, and the caveat to that is that most of the time Forge mods have to match on the server and client version. So you have to be very attentive and careful to what version you're running versus what version your clients are running. If you have to update your server for any reason, you have to let all your players know that they need to update as well. So that can be something to pay attention to. Out there in the world are mod packs, as I mentioned. I'm personally familiar with the Feed the Beast and Tekkit world. There's a whole lot more out there. What they do is they bring together modifications from lots of different authors and provide all of those changes as one big package, and often allow very easy installation of all those modifications through a custom launcher. Most, but not necessarily all, of those mod packs I've seen rely on Forge to be able to manage all the different mods. And as I mentioned, the servers have to have the same versions of those mods installed. And if either side upgrade, it can produce some confusion. So, some example of these modifications that these mod packs install. For some that are common through a lot of the different mod packs that are out there are things like computer craft, adding computer systems to the world, allows you to do in-game computers through Lua programming, a lot of great peripherals for that, and you can even utilize little robots called turtles to do world changes, mining, crafting, and all that sort of thing. Buildcraft adds lots of different mining, building, crafting engines, pipes to transport items and blocks throughout the world. Red Power does a lot of those things as well. All of them take very different approaches. I'm definitely a fan of a lot of the mods that are out there, and I'm very grateful for the authors that have put those together. There are tons more that I love that wouldn't fit on a slide, so we could spend probably a good half hour, 45 minutes just talking about the different mods and what they do. Some example plugins, and again, plugins are for Bukkit. Townie adds player-controlled land management. So, for example, as an admin, you can set up parameters by which players can purchase towns and purchase land for those towns. And within those towns, you can decide what those new town owners, mayors, or whatever one configures them to be called, what rights they have, what rights they can grant to other players. It adds a lot of control to the players who essentially own that territory to handle their own affairs, and it can give some restriction control to PvP engines. So towns can band together to form nations. Nations can be at war with each other. That also ties into the next piece, Vault and some of the other economy plugins that are out there. There are lots of them. Vault is a sort of back-end API for economies, and then there are different economy plugins out there. You can have different currencies in your system, or just a single currency. There's even plugins where you can make the currencies be tangible different goods, so one could theoretically mine for money. You can add shops, you can add taxes, you can add interest, bank accounts. There's lots of different things that the economy systems can add to things. There are whole, I've even seen commodity market trading plugins for people who really enjoy virtual economies. Citizens adds NPCs, and there are lots of plugins that build on citizens that can add guards that are sentries, that can guard against players, that can guard against monsters, whatever have you. Scriptable villagers that you can do some very complicated scripts on. I've seen complex trader solutions that are out there. I've also seen some pretty significant quest engines that can work with citizens. So if you wanted to have people who gave players tasks to do in the world and cause world events, things like that. I've even seen a really interesting postal system where postmen travel and drop off and pick up mail. There are more plugins than I could possibly ever cover in a video, so they're fascinating. The gotcha to this is that installing Bukkit and Forge into the same system, they both are APIs that modify Minecraft. So they can play nice if you get some sort of bridge or hybrid technology. However, there's no necessarily guarantee that mods or plugins are going to work correctly with the hybrid. For example, a server that I'm currently running privately for my friends, we're running Feed the Beast, and we recently installed MCPC Plus, and all of the mods and add-in plugins that I've mentioned so far are all running peacefully within the same server environment. But, you do have some challenges around how that all moves forward. And first of all, the challenges that you got to take into account are stability. Most of these mods are not built to run in that hybrid environment. It's just the hybrid programmers have done their best to make things stable for players. But proceed slowly is definitely one of the key lessons that I've taken away. I built out a strategy of different waves of plugins that I wanted to install on my Feed the Beast install, and we've taken the approach of only a few plugins per wave over the span of a week or two, so that way we could really identify which plugins were causing any sort of glitching or crash problems, of which we've definitely had some. They're overcomable, but you have to pay attention. Some of the other challenges with that are install and setup. There's not a lot of necessarily great guides if you're running in that hybrid mode how to make things play nice together. The biggest challenge that I have found is that mod packs don't necessarily run current version. They can run pretty close to. For example, my Feed the Beast is still on 1.4.7 Minecraft, and at the current time of this video, I think 1.5.1 or 1.5.2 are out and about. This means that I had to make sure I got the right particular version of MCPC Plus that was compatible 1.4.7. That means anytime I'm looking at Bukkit, I can't just hit the download link. I'll have to go through the release notes to identify the exact right build for 147, and that does mean that you may end up having to scrap the idea of using a mod if there's a showstopper bug, because bug fixes are going to be for the current release. So you have to pay attention to what you're downloading. It's incredibly easy to get incompatible things. In my Citizens plugin example, I had acquired the Sentry plugin and a Builder plugin for Citizens, and my everything was working fine with Sentry, and I created my first Builder and the server blew up, and it turned out I had just grabbed the wrong version of Builder. I would strongly recommend that you create some sort of spreadsheet or have some detailed notes about which plugins you have installed, what you've done for configuring them, what security settings around them you've got, when you installed them, and that way you can kind of have a sense of where problems might have started. Maybe modify your server batch files to create a new version of a log every time the server is restarted. Do full backup of your server environment every time you install new plugins, just to make sure that worst case scenario you have something to go back to. One of the first plugins I would recommend that wasn't on my list would be a backup plugin. They're a fantastic way of making sure your world is backed on a regular basis, and that way combining the two, you'd be able to hopefully roll back in a reasonable fashion. So I hope this has been somewhat helpful in clarifying, the crazy world of, wait, what's a bucket, what's a forge, I don't understand. That hopefully helps out a bunch of folks. Feel free to leave any questions in the feedback. I might not know the answer, but I can probably find it.